All right, everyone, we have a little bit of a celebration here, a little bit more levity than the idea of thousands of people being killed every day in some foreign desert somewhere. Woke Snow White is having some issues. There's some technical difficulties with this movie. Disney has decided to delay the Woke Snow White reboot, or remake you could call it, for at least a year or thereabouts. So this is one of those movies where they've piled a bunch of money into it and it may not actually be created at all. Because they wouldn't be delaying it unless there was something really important. I have a feeling I know. What happened is that the people that are representing your movie to the public have openly denounced the basic premise and plot of the movie. That's not a great idea. When your lead actresses, Rachel Zegler, etc., when the people that are going to be in the main roles are like, oh, this isn't going to be the Snow White of the 1930s, based on the classic German folkloric sort of system. Again, a lot of the early Disney movies are at least loosely based on old folklore. They're based like Cinderella, Snow White, etc. They have a loose base. Look at Hercules, even up through the 90s. What's Disney's fodder for material? Mythologies. Some ancient epic, some poem or something like that. It doesn't matter where it's from. And they did like Lion King, Hakuna Matata. What's that based on? It's effectively a folkish anthropological principle. It's actually a real one, but the kids liked the song. Woke Snow White suffered from the problem that everyone was a kid once. A lot of them liked classic Disney movies. Even the ones that became like hardcore gangsta and stuff, they watched The Lion King and Hercules and shit when they were a kid probably. Very, very much a part of Americana as well. With Snow White and some of the major releases from Disney over time. Of course, it's an older movie now, very, very popular. They hit it out of the ballpark for decades and decades making movies like that. The problem is that you're misrepresenting the entire intent of the movie and you're effectively pledging to people, hey, it's not going to be the movie. It'll be called Snow White, but it's actually going to be about a strong, empowered woman who don't need no man. She's going to be kicking ass. This time around, Snow White will be like, Alice in Wonderland, only the entire movie is her in a suit of armor fighting people or something like that. That particular adaptation, by the way, of Alice in Wonderland was actually pretty good. I'm just talking about the release with, of course, Johnny Depp as the Mad Hatter. Did a good job. Anyway, as far as this goes, you told people outright, you're going to ignore the entire movie itself. So you shouldn't even be calling it Snow White. The head actress who's going to play Snow White is saying she doesn't even like the character effectively. I wonder why you have to delay the movie's release. It's so people will forget, number one, that these people made those comments. And number two, they can do a little bit of editing. They can do a little cut here and there. Add in a couple of scenes and stuff. Make it more, add in a couple of dance scenes where there used to be the vagina monologues. That's what they're going to have to do in order to actually break even with the movie. Ultimately, they're all about money. Disney is about money. A lot of people think of it, it's the Magic Kingdom. It's about the wonderful sense of childhood. Once you walk through those gates out in front with the fucking tailgate party and the lines a mile long, and you see all the people in rubber suits to get minimum wage, etc., and the 90-degree humid Florida heat, all of a sudden, everything comes to life. It's magical. And Walt Disney's ghost, of course, guides the whole thing. It's sort of like a weird mythology when you think about it. Disney has become the kind of myth that it derives its material from. But really, in the back, all it is a bunch of accountants and people in the boardroom counting the Benji Greens and smoking cigars. That's what Disney really is. It's a corporate venture. In fact, it's a very tyrannical corporate venture, one granted an automatic and arbitrary monopoly effectively by the state of Florida. Ron DeSantis, to his credit, one thing that I found that he was right on and Trump was wrong on was going after these cutthroats. Why the fuck should Disney have its own semi-autonomous corporate town while it's also weighing in on state politics? Doesn't really make a lot of sense now, does it? Snow White will be delayed indefinitely, probably. In the end, who's going to want to fucking watch it? If you like classic Disney, you're not going to like it because it's gone woke. It's sort of like the woke Little Mermaid. How many times have you heard about the woke Little Mermaid other than an original spattering of people largely panning the concept for blackwashing yet another redhead? They're doing the same thing with Snow White. Again, you're not allowed to have a traditionalistic sort of view of that character. The next Cinderella will probably be a lesbian, which is fine, you know. If it's hard R-rated, I suppose that one would be popular. Why doesn't Disney just branch out into making cartoon porn and self-deprecating their own content? They'd make more money. At some point they'll probably do that. They'll have a lewd TikTok channel or something like that, where Snow White shows a little bit of side boob. It'd be more popular than what you're doing now. I don't even understand the premise at this point. The wokeness thing worked for a while. It's no longer working. Maybe that explains the delay too. You're like, oh shit. When we first planned the movie a few years ago, we weren't facing the possibility of widespread boycotts Bud Light style. And that wasn't a problem. Or Lululemon or something. I can't remember who else was boycotted there for a while. By the way, UFC now swilling down the piss beer. We didn't have that problem a few years ago. And we started designing this movie, and we said, okay, we're going to have Snow White, but we're going to make her woke. So she's not white, which is a hilarious irony. That'll get attention. We don't have to worry about the right wing's too lazy to boycott, but we'll get a lot of extra attention. That's free advertising, so that's good. Musicians do this, by the way, when they put satanic imagery in their music videos. Doesn't make them a devil worshiper, it makes them business savvy. I'd do it too if I were a pop star. People wouldn't be surprised in my case, I suppose. We're going to take it, make it woke. So Snow White is now black, effectively, or I don't know. I don't give a shit. And she's a man-hater. The prince this time around will probably be a blundering buffoon. Like, he's not the debonair, knight in shining armor sort of stereotype. That's boring. People don't care about that. Now he's basically an asshole. And so in this one, basically, Snow White is getting railed by the seven dwarves, and she just fucking cuts his head off because he's a boring asshat and then humps his dead head. Or something like, and then the queen, of course, she can be like, sort of a right-wing, maybe like a female Richard Spencer stereotype. There's an insinuation there that she's a racial supremacist, and the reason she has a problem with Snow White is because her skin color's a little bit darker. But she's so beautiful and stunning and brave. So in the end, Snow White, turns her lesbo or something like that. You could think up, a million different plot lines, and arguably some aspects would be close to what Disney probably has in mind. Again, we've got comments, public, and that's the central problem. The central problem is the public comments by the people that are actually working on the movie. Disney must have been sweating bullets when Ziegler came out and said, well, I don't even really like the character I'm playing. She was a fuck-up in the original movie, so I've decided to change her a little bit. Well, why did you take the role if you hate the character? And she just seems very unlikable, like very girl boss about it, and that's no longer going over as well as it did 2 or 3 years ago. Now you have the right wing boycotting people. You've got the overexhaustion of the concept of making a talentless movie and simply making it politically correct and progressive, and it magically does well. That ended with Ghostbusters. Basically, that was the first foreshock of what we're seeing right now, the backlash against wokeness, CRT, and shit like that that's destroying our society, really comes with the Ghostbusters reboot. Yeah, technically, you punt it back to Gamergate, but no, as far as cinema goes, I think it's more the Ghostbusters a reboot that literally nobody remembers anything about other than that they didn't watch it because they knew it would be terrible. Oh, they took a beloved franchise and they completely ruined it and made it humorless. That'll work really well. They were expecting a return on that shit. Didn't work out so well. That's about all. Peace out.